So first, let's talk about Look Back a little bit. Okay, we're going to break it down here in a little bit, give our thoughts on this one shot. This one shot, of course, being 142 pages. Again, it's by Fujimoto, the creator of Chainsaw Man. So Look Back is set to be released as a standalone volume September 3rd. Okay. So a couple things. Number one, very excited to see the sales numbers on this, right? That's the number one thing I'm going to go ahead and throw out there. But the next thing it's just a question that I had, seeing this, and let's assume that the sales numbers are going to be really, really strong, right? Okay, to kind of like a Burn the Witch situation. While Burn the Witch had great content, it's by Kubo. Everyone knows and loves Kubo, so there's a lot of fans that want to support Kubo, right? Kind of the same thing here with the Chainsaw Man hype. Everyone loves Chainsaw Man. They want to support him. When it comes to this, if the sales kind of blow out of the water, let's assume they do. Do you think that maybe this could set up for a Look Back movie? Perhaps. I mean, this was described almost like a feature film. In terms of how the pacing of the chapter, the one shot went. Do you guys see that as a possibility? Do you guys see that maybe as getting a couple more one shots of this? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's going to simply end as this, or do you think there could be more possibilities?
I feel like there could be a possibility of a movie. I feel like in terms for that to really work out, though, there have to be some added content and storyboards to really flesh it out and extend it to I think a minimum. It's like 45 to 50 minutes for a film, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think with just the base content that came out in the one shot, I mean, it'd be a fairly interesting story, but I wouldn't count it as like a movie of any sorts.
Right. What about you?
I could. I wouldn't say movie per se, unless like a studio got their hands on it. Let's say Studio Ghibli got their hands on it, want to make a movie out of it. I could probably see that. A lot of Studio Ghibli movies are based off of stories like this. If anything, though, I could see it maybe as I wouldn't say a limited series, but maybe something along those lines, kind of like how Burn the Witch didn't Burn the Witch get a limited series, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Yeah, Burn the Witch essentially was like a movie split into a couple episodes, kind of similar to what they did with the Digimon Adventure Tri ones. Yeah. Those movies, they split up into 4 episodes apiece, kind of like that, yeah.
So I could see something like that for this. Maybe not, 4 episodes, but maybe 2. Just, put back to back in like an hour-long format or something like that to, but I wouldn't see it getting a movie per se. But I could definitely see more coming out of this because it did kind of blow everyone out of the water. Nobody was really expecting what they got. And everyone really loved it. And, Fujimoto got tons of praise from all kinds of manga creators and everyone. So I could definitely see more stuff like this, kind of popping up, just random one shots. Because, Oda's got Monsters, which I believe Shonen Jump is putting on their YouTube channel as like a voiced comic. That's going to be 2 episodes. So I could really see that inspiring, more stuff like that, the Monsters thing, or like other manga creators like going and creating more content like that outside of what they're normally working on. Right.
And I will say, I do think that this base premise, honestly, I do think it could be a really solid movie. But if let's say Shueisha would want to take that approach, I'm with you, Zach. I think we would get a lot more like storyboarding that Fujimoto would come up and and get more content for the movie. I do think it could be possible, and I do think it could be a really good movie. I mean, just from the base story that we did get in the one shot, I think it definitely has the potential for a pretty solid flick. But I'm with you on the fact that we would need more content. But I could also see what Josh is saying, where it could be like maybe like a special limited series, like 2, 3 to 4 episodes. I don't know. We'll see. The main thing is just we're gonna make sure to track those sales when that comes out, see how well it's gonna do. If it's anything, I mean, like Burn the Witch blew it out of the water I understand that was I think 3 chapters. I think what Burn the Witch was for its 1 volume, and it just completely just unbelievable sales. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Look Back's going to do as well. How do we feel about Look Back? We're now jumping over to manga time. We're going to talk about the one shot by Fujimoto. So who wants to kick it off? Who wants to kick off breaking down what we had out of Look Back?
It was nice. I mean, you're not going to get much from me. I mean, it was nice overall. I enjoyed it. I really didn't grow too attached to it. I did like the sort of flip aspect of the 2 timelines, though.
Yeah, we did get the split timelines towards the end of it. Josh, what about you, man? You know, I imagine you're probably a pretty big fan of this.
Well, I actually had to read some stuff to get it like a little more broken down for me because at first, I really related to it as like someone who was an artist throughout like high school and or all my school time. Wanting to draw comics and stuff, and
Right.
like people being like, "Oh man, you're really good," and then like someone's better comes along, and then it's like, "You're not that good." So like I really got into it at that point, and then the story just kind of took off from there, and that's when I really had to start kind of looking into it more. And there's a lot of parallels in this story with dude, I'm spacing on the dude's name right now, Fujimoto, with Fujimoto's like actual life, because he ended up going to college for like Western art, which is what the other girl went to go to college for. He had several one shots, and then finally got a published manga with a Fire Punch, which is kind of like a parallel to Shark Kick.
Yeah, I did notice. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And then, around the same time that Shark Kick's getting an anime is like, when Chainsaw Man's getting an anime and stuff. And I posted this in our Discord, but the whole, final act, the climax of it, had a lot of parallels to the arson on that animation studio. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
I remember that.
Yeah, because the Look Back was actually released on like the 2-year anniversary of that, and from what I understand, Fujimoto was close to some of the people that worked there, including one of the people that died in that fire. And on top of that, the whole fire was started the same way that the axe murderer was doing stuff. He had had a psychotic break, thinking that people were plagiarizing him, and that's when he started the fire. Just like the axe murderer went in and started killing people because he felt like they were plagiarizing him. And what really kind of got me was it wasn't like a parallel universe or like a 2 worlds or a different timeline or anything like that. That whole ending was more or less basically it was a traumatic event for the main character. I don't know if you guys have ever like heard about this or read into it, and it's the first time I'm really seeing it in anything, but usually when there is a traumatic event, when someone close to you is murdered or something really bad happens, a lot of the times people feel like there's something they could have done. And so they replay the event in their head thinking of like, if I had done this differently at this point, would this have happened at this point? And that's pretty much what happens at the end of this is she's replaying it in her head thinking, well, if I had never gone there and, actually like since slid that manga panel under her door, would we ever have become friends? Would she ever come out of the house? Well, if she had never come out of the house, and she never would have met me, and we never would have hung out. She never would have wanted to go to college, so therefore she never would have been there in the first place. But it just goes to show, and it's kind of a nod back to that very first panel of the manga that she drew, where it's kind of like the kiss, where if we died and reincarnated, would we ever meet back? And then it's the asteroid like destroying the Earth, like coming in for the kiss. It's a direct like callback parallel to that, where even in her mind, like going through it, trying to like do it differently where she wouldn't die, she still ended up, dying in a way. Because, she, instead of getting killed by the axe murder, she was saved because she had never done manga in the first place and she did karate. So it was like a callback to that, which is really, really interesting just because, I've kind of known about stuff like that, but it's not really depicted a lot in media of, those, what if scenarios, like, if I had done this differently, would they still have died? Would they have lived? And that was her way of coping, more or less, was going through that scenario of like coming in and saving her at the end, and therefore, they never died.
That was very beautifully put, Josh. That was very, very beautifully broken down.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I mean, I really enjoyed it, and that's why, I had to go and find something to kind of like break it down for me to understand it a little better. And, knowing that it's a lot of parallels to, Fujimoto's life to begin with, and, all these kind of like psychological bits and pieces that are, kind of scattered in there.
Right.
It made it even more interesting.
And, hearing you break it down in that capacity, like going into it, I did kind of see a couple of tidbits online where it's like this is kind of a parallel to Fujimoto's life. I did see some tidbits on that on like Twitter and everything. And so going into it, I just, that's what something I already kind of understood. But, hearing you break it down the way that you did more, it's just like kind of eye-opening. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with the whole tragic event thing where it's like you're looking for, like what you could have done differently. I get that completely. As someone, who's lost a parent to suicide, totally get that, where you put yourself in a position of, what could I have done differently, et cetera, to try to prevent that. And you go through each and every step. So you just breaking it down like that just makes me, I'm replaying the one shot in my head right now, where it's just like, damn, that is a beautifully done one shot, even more than I already enjoyed it. And with that said, I really hope this becomes a movie. That'd be dope. I'm going to hope this thing sells out immensely. And maybe we can get some extra storyboarding like Zach said originally and maybe get a movie out of it. No, that was very beautifully put. I can't add anything on to that, Josh. That was fantastic. Great job.
Yeah. And it's even more so just like because of the parallels to, Fujimoto's life, like, you're just kind of wondering, like, is this more or less an autobiographical thing that he's pretty much like put into a manga to like, put his thoughts, like a therapeutic way of putting his thoughts and feelings out there to like,
right.
Instead of like dwelling on them, like, because we do know that, the axe murder and the arson are the parallels. The main character is Fujimoto. I believe both characters, like their names contain his name in it.
It does. As I have it written down here in front of me, the main character's name is Fujino.
Yeah.
And then the other character's name is Koimoto. So,
yeah.
Wow, fuck, God.
Did you really not notice that?
No.
How? That was literally the first thing I noticed when they said the main character's name.
Yeah.
I actually tracked back and went, isn't that just an off-play of Fujimoto's name?
Yeah. Which, brings it into that deeper point is like, because he, from what I understand, he was close to one of the people that did die in that arson.
Right.
So, like, is this, like, his way of, like, coping with that and, like, how he would have wanted things to go differently?
Man, that's a very interesting thought. I would just go out on a limb, obviously knowing so little of the situation from a personal standpoint. I would just say yes, because there's so many different ways to cope, and with everything that we kind of just generally know from the situation, I would say this is definitely kind of a way to just maybe finally express those feelings that maybe he never got a chance to fully express, and express it in the one way that he knows how, and that's to draw manga. That's what he does for a living. That's what he loves to do. I'm assuming he loves to do, of course. So I would definitely say, that's probably a coping mechanism.
And here I was thinking Chainsaw Man, just drawing people getting ripped.
I mean, that could be as well.
I mean, just taking all that anger on just
that's true.
fictional drawings.
Chainsaw Man could just be one giant anger release for him. Just getting all of his frustrations out there. I mean, you never know.
That would explain the last, like, 20 chapters.
That's fucking true. No, really pumped up to see the sales on Look Back here in September, and hopefully they're going to do phenomenal. And maybe, like we were saying, maybe set up for a movie. That would be actually really dope, and I think this would add some extra storyboarding, and I think this could be a really awesome film.